Yeah, so I'm gonna start again just because of this screen recording stuff. Like I said before, my name is Benaya, and I'm just basically self-taught developer myself, and I was the one who did this project for you guys, and I'm gonna be showing you how this was able to get developed itself. So I said before that this particular project was done using the web technologies, and when I mean by web technologies, I'm talking about the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript itself. So I want to show you what I mean. So this the web browser itself. For you to be able to communicate with the web browser, we need to write a language in which this particular browser understands, and the only language in which the browser understands itself is JavaScript. We use JavaScript in communicating with the web, while CSS is basically used for adding styles to make the web page look much more interactive and beautiful itself. So just take HTML as the plain structure or the skeleton, while CSS would just basically mean your skin and flesh and other stuff, the beauty of your face and other stuff. While JavaScript itself add much more, add interactive, add flexibility to your body, the movements and some other stuff itself. Yeah, so let me show you what will happen if actually this page wasn't developed using CSS. So I just want to show you guys something right now. Thanks, Jesus. Welcome, guys. I don't want to show you guys something.
There are more than 100,000 witnesses worshiping together in spirit and truth. South Africa has 11 official languages.
Yeah, so if you have any question, you can just open the mic up and just speak, so I can just get this to them. But meanwhile, I just want to show you guys something quickly.
When we build strong faith,
No, it's not here.
peace, we can find courage during times of testing and persecution. Brother Rocky Webb
Okay.
from the United States,
Um,
the fighters young man,
okay, let me just leave this for now. I'm going to show you guys later. So what I mean by JavaScript itself, because if you go into the JavaScript, without JavaScript itself, you won't be able to interact with this web page, like clicking on this stuff and another actions within the web page itself. So JavaScript makes this particular app much more flexible. So it adds flexibility to your app by interaction and some other stuff. Like I said before, this site was done using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So I'm going to dive right in within the code base itself. So right here, the code base is just simply contain these three files itself: CSS, JS, and index.html file. The index.html is basically the root of this particular app itself. So when you visit, all web page needs a particular site to load on. By default, the browser itself recognizes index.html or .html as the root directory itself, or just simply slash. So if you put in slash here, the browser will understand that we are trying to move to the root page here, and the root of this particular site is called index.html here. So this file here contains the UI and the UI element and component in itself, and I'm basically making use of the CSS and the bootstrap.css. Meanwhile, the bootstrap.css is basically a CSS library, which makes it easy for us to develop sites much more quicker. While the style.css itself contains like the files, styles, and some other stuff, just to make this web page looks more beautiful and cool itself. So let me just start from the index.html file. Or which particular file do you guys want me to start from? Should I start from the index.html file or basically the logic of the application, which is found in the app.js file here? So I need you guys respond. Which particular file should I start from? Should I start from the UI or the logic itself? I don't know if you guys can hear me. Please, guys, I'm waiting for you guys' response. Should I basically start from the UI or yeah? Yeah, so I'm asking if I should start from the UI of this particular application or the logic behind this app. Okay, cool. Yeah, so for those who don't, I'm going to leave some links for you guys here because I've dropped some links for you guys to go to, because what I'll be explaining, if you don't have basic knowledge of JavaScript, you won't be able to understand some things I'm saying right here. So that's the reason why I separated this particular site. This file here contains the UI components, that is the div and some other stuff. Why this particular file here contains the logic of the application. So I want to start from the top here. So we basically, right now you are seeing function, and you know in all programming language, when we define functions or method, functions, they basically contains group of things which we want a particular program to execute. So, but in this case, we are simply defining a function in JavaScript using the function keyword followed by the name itself. Right now, I make use of this dollar sign, and the reason why I make use of this dollar sign is that JavaScript it's basically intelligent on its own. So you could make use of any name, but not the keywords in JavaScript like eval, this, const, and some other stuff. So I basically make use of this dollar sign to make me to make this function easier to be called when I'm calling it in some other stuff. So instead of me writing document the query selector or document the query selector all the time, I simply call this function here. And what this function does is that it makes use of the JavaScript query selector method here. I think some people are just joining in. Yeah, so like I said before, I said this particular method, query selector, enables us is to select some of the elements within the DOM node or the document node here. So what you are seeing here, let me just show you the source code here. So all this stuff you are seeing here, they are basically some of the elements within the document or the browser itself. So for we to access all these elements, we need to make use of the some methods in which was provided to us in JavaScript itself, or basically the browser. So the browser itself provides us with some methods. So let's look at them. Well, when we type, let me just zoom in this for you guys so you guys can see it. So when we type document here, as you can see this display, these screens definitely highlight. Why? Because it's telling you this document simply means the page of the main page of this application itself. So documents, if we just enter this, you can see it's just like a tree, and it contains all what we wrote within the index.html file, both the HTML tag, the head tag, and the body tag. And this document itself has some other methods in which we can use to access some of these nodes. And when I mean by nodes, I'm talking about this div, scripts, and other stuff behind the scenes itself. So it basically enables us to access some of these elements or HTML elements from our JavaScript file. And the reason why this is possible is that the browser provides this for us out of the box. So instead of us writing all this stuff from scratch, we simply call the method and we select each element from the DOM node. Then let me show you some of the method in which we have. So when I type in document here and I enter dots, as you can see, you see all this method here. All these things you are seeing here, they are basically method or functions here. And these are the method in which the document has. We have base URL, body color, as you can see here. We have the capture event and some other stuff. But the one which we need is called what? Query selector. So let's simply move into Q. So if you go to the top, sorry, bottom, let's look for Q. Q right here. Something is going on. Let me just use my arrow key. I don't know. I might have passed it, but let me just zoom out. Okay, just like this. And when I click on Q, as you can see, it says what document or what query selector here. So this particular function itself, or let me just show you guys something. When I bring my mouse over this function in VS Code here, when I bring my cursor over this function, it should tell me some meaning. As you can see here, it says what returns the first element that is a descendant of node that matches the selector. So all what this stuff is trying to tell you is that it returns the first element in which this particular method saw. But if there are multiple elements in which you want to select from the document object, we simply make use of the other method called query selector all, followed by the element we want to select. In this case, we are passing the element into this function as a what parameter. And when I mean by parameter are in programming, we have what we call parameters and arguments. Not the argument is not what two human beings or the conflict between two people. What I mean by argument itself are being called when the function gets initialized or the instantiation of a particular function itself. But parameters are being passed into a function on creation of the function itself. So right now we are creating this function itself and we are passing what parameter called elements. This could be any name. This could be bot. This could be any stuff. It could be anything. It could be color. It could be so. But putting some boring names here won't tell the meaning of each function. That's the reason why they are being told. Because a good design pattern in programming or in computer science in general is that you want to make your code look more readable to others. So that's the reason why we make use of what cool names itself. So instead of me typing in let's say other name here, I can simply type in elements or simply short elements. So this is just the short form of this, and then we pass it into this method called query selector. The query selector takes in a node itself. So as you can see here, it takes in a selector. This selector could be any HTML element. So let me give you an example. Right now, let's look at the source code here. So right now we have what? We have this div here. We have the video tag. We have the small tag and some other stuff. What if we want to get this video tag? How do we access it from our file itself? So basically, we make use of the document of query selector, or we make use of document of query selector, followed by the elements, and the element is what? Video. So we simply type in the name called video here, and when we click enter, it shows us the what element in which we are selecting. Right now, this is the UI component called video tier. So we are being able to select elements right from the browser or right from our JavaScript file itself. So this is the beauty of this method here. Although there are so many other methods in which can be used to access elements from the browser. We have methods like get element by class name and some other stuff itself. So but let's say we want to get div right here, because if I search for div, what do you guys see? There are so many div tags here, right? But what if we want to select just a specific element? We want to select all the div tag. What do? Do we make use of this method again? Let's put in the div here. Div. Right now it's only gives me one. This method here returns only one, and this is the first element. Like before I said, the document of query selector query selector returns the first element within the root document of this page itself, and the first element within this page is called what? Div, having a class of what? Main. But we want to select all, then we can simply make use of what the query selector what? All. So we simply passing all here, and we click this, and as you can see, it returns an array of all the elements within this document itself. So hope you guys understand that. That's just what this function is just trying to do itself. Then we move into this and some we move into variables declaration itself. And variable declaration is just for you to be able to get assign variable using the let, const, and var keywords. So we make use of the let here. So just as in any other language itself, like Java, Ruby, and Python itself, in JavaScript, for you to declare a variable, we make use of the let keyword here, followed by the name of the variable. So right now, we're simply saying let audio recorder. This also just simply means recorder for short. Let audio recorder equals to what? The elements. We are trying to assign the elements which we are trying to grab from the HTML document itself. And the HTML documents here, instead of us using the div, the element name, we can simply make use of the class name. And what I mean by class name is that each of these elements here, right here, has a class itself. Right here, as you can see, it has a class here. So we can simply we can get elements from the browser, or we can simply select elements from the document node using by their class name or by their ID. And what I mean by class name is that class name, when there are so many methods way in which to select elements. We have the data attribute, we have the ID, we have the class name. But basically, this particular one is I'm making use of the what class name itself, and the class name for this audio recorder is what is audio record. Yeah. So let's just look for this. I'm going to copy out this and search for this within this page here. So as you can see here, we found this, and we are saying, hey you, I want you to select this element by the what class name here called audio recorder. And for class name, we make use of what dot. We make use of the dot notation for class here. So this dot is simply we are telling JavaScript that what I'm trying to grab a element containing a class name here by dots. But when we put an ID here, we simply what we're trying to tell JavaScript to get an element by their what ID here. So and since we don't have elements containing ID within our browser here or within this application, we're making use of a class name itself. So now I hope this is just clear for you guys. I mean, if you have any question, you can simply unmute yourself and speak. And we are selecting all these elements. And we're also assigning the values to all these elements here. Right now, we are saying should stop, and false. And this method, I want to explain what this stuff does. Meanwhile, to you guys. And so that's that for that. And let's look at this speed first. Let me just reset this. So each of these elements here from the document, let's look at this. First of all, we are looking at the audio recorder, and all this stuff are basically the container itself. And when I mean by container, all this stuff here, you see here. So we are trying to grab all this from the document itself. So first of all, the record audio, the record video, the record screen. We are trying to access their element itself. And then we are attaching an event handler. Sorry for the background noise. We are trying to attach an event handler, and the event handler in which we are trying to attach to this is simply what click event. So we are trying to say when we are attaching an event handler called click, that means when this particular element here gets clicked, we want some actions. And what are those actions in which we want? Number one, we want to record what audio and then traverse the DOM here. All these are simply function declaration itself. So the record audio, they are basically different functions. Right now we see record audio based on the audio recorder component. Then the video recorder component, we attach a click handler. So when we click on the video recorder here, we want the record video function to get executed. Then when we click on the screen recorder, we want the screen recorder function here to get executed. So all this stuff, they are basically click events in the browser itself. And let's move down then. So this traverse DOM, what this does is that instead of me copying and pasting all this one more time in each of these functions here, I simply create a function, then putting this here, then just simply call the function to make this code much more readable. So what this traverse DOM does is that it's just simply a function name. It's not a keyword or some other unique name. This is just a name I gave to this function itself. So this traverse DOM, what it does is that the stop BTN, we want to remove the attribute of disabled. So if I click on this audio recorder now, so as you can see right there, or let me just refresh the page and show you what I mean. Right now, this audio record stuff, this right here, let me just show you guys. Where is it? Stop BTN here. Okay. Where are you? Right now. So this particular button here has an attribute called disabled. And what I mean by disabled is that when this particular component gets rendered on the screen, you won't be able to click on this component itself. So once I click on the record video record stuff, I want the user to be able to stop recording, and for me to be able to tell the user to stop recording, I need to remove this attribute called disabled, because by default this disabled has a value called true. So once I do it like this, once I just attach the disabled here to this particular element, this element won't be clickable itself. Since someone has just joined. Okay, someone is there. I don't know. Can you guys see my screen? I don't know what is wrong with this.
Verses 8 through 13 occurred shortly after the Israelites left Egypt. Exodus 17, 8 through 13 reads as follows.
Sorry for that. My network just got disconnected. I don't know if you can hear me. Please signify.
However, we can benefit from her example. Many brothers and sisters perform essential support work.
If anyone can hear me, please signify.
But they are rarely, if ever, in
Hello?
the limelight, nor are they well known.
Can anyone hear me?
But Jehovah knows who you are, and He appreciates what you do.
If you can hear me, please
Hebrews
signify before I continue.
6, verse 10 gives us this assurance.
Okay, yeah, good.
Hebrews
Yes,
10 reads, "For God is not unrighteous so as to forget
Okay,
your work
okay. So let me just
and the
continue.
love you show for
So,
His name by ministering and
where was I? I was
continuing to minister to the holy ones." Oftentimes, we humans forget about the good that others do.
Yeah, sure.
Jehovah never
The record is on.
forgets the good works of His faithful servants. And
Yeah, so I was
now,
talking about.
a man who was a gross wrongdoer,
You said?
guilty of the most heinous crimes and violations of God's laws.
Okay.
He was King
Okay, no problems. Let me just ignore
Not
this.
only does the Bible account
So I was talking about. Sorry, I was talking about each of these functions here. What their capability itself. So I was talking about these disabled attributes within the HTML document here, and I said this disabled attribute prevents users from clicking a particular element. So by default, users won't be able to stop recording if they haven't begin their record, because we don't want them to stop recording when they've not started their recording itself. So that's why I added this disabled here. Then the second thing else is that when we click on each of these elements, we want to begin recording, and when we start recording, we want to remove that disabled attribute from that element here. That's the reason why I make use of this particular method called remove attributes here. So this remove attribute simply, as names implies, it removes a specific attribute from an element. If that element doesn't exist, this particular attribute here will simply throw an error here to the browser here. So we simply say the stop button. By the way, this is just stop BTN for short. The stop button dot remove the attribute called what? Disabled. Then we are simply setting the more info to visible, because by default this particular component here is actually invisible. So let me show you what I mean. So let me just reduce the zoom stuff. So when I click on each of this, let me say record video, as you can see it shows by default this particular component is invisible. Let me just refresh this. Don't want to see my face. Yeah, so this element here by default is invisible, or the visibility is set to none. Then when we click on each of these elements, we are simply like changing the visibility to visible. I don't know if you guys get me.
Do we not see evidence of that today? The Apostle Peter was someone that most of us
Hello?
can relate to. After Jesus' resurrection, Peter became a zealous and fearless preacher.
Do you guys get
of the
me?
news. He did not look back on his mistakes and
Oh,
continued
no, I'm
beating
talking to myself.
himself for
I'm talking to
denying
myself.
Jesus 3 times. He did not
I was asking a question if you guys understand what I've just said.
He did not quit.
Before I continue.
Feeling sorry for himself. Nor did he quit when Paul reprimanded him in front of many disciples.
Okay, so I was saying that this element here within the browser here, by default, its visibility is set to what? None. Or visibility is set to what? Hidden here. So let me show you what I mean. This is more info. As you can see here, the visibility is what? Hidden here. So once this page gets rendered on the screen, these components won't be visible. But once we click on the stats or any of this button here or any of these components, we simply want to set the visibility to what visible. So let me show you what I mean. Let me just check some stuff. Let me just log Facebook. So when I click, let me refresh this. So when I click on this, it shows this element here. Can you guys see? It shows this element. So by default, this particular component here, the visibility is set to what's hidden, and that is why I'm changing the visibility back to what's visible here. That is why you'll be able to see it and stop the beating. When I click on this stuff, when I view the elements, we notice that what the attributes of disabled is no longer there, because by default the attribute of disabled was on this top button here. It was there before, but now when we click on it, it's no longer there. So that's what this piece of logic is doing behind the scene here. So I'll just refresh this, and so let's move on. And by the way, this stop recording function or the stop record function, what this stop does is that it simply reassigns that attribute of disabled to what true here, and the download link will simply display it here. So all this stuff, they're just basically all what we need to control the UI of the application itself. So if you guys have any question, you can simply ask, or let me just continue. So the next one is this what we call audio record constraints. This is an object here, and this object contains a property or a key with the name of what? Echo cancellation of true. Now this echo cancellation is that when we record an audio, when we simply record an audio, by default, the audio will simply have an echo effect, making the audio unstable. But we don't want that to affect our audio recording. So that's the reason why we are simply saying audio cancellation, or this particular function. What it does is that it simply cancels the audio. So we are simply specifying that, hey you, do you want to cancel any echo when recording the video? We simply say true, or simply say which means yes. So we don't want echo when we simply record an audio from the browser itself. So let's look at the main function now. Let's look at this function, the handle record function. Or meanwhile, let's look at some of this function: the record audio, the record video, and the record screen itself. So let's start from the record audio, because this was the first option here, record audio. So what the record audio does is that this is the record audio function, and the record audio function is an asynchronous function here. And the reason why we added this keyword called async or async is that we want to wait for this particular option to return or to resolve. Because if you don't wait, something can happen. That's the reason why we want to wait till this particular function gets executed first. And what this stuff does is that the navigator .media device gets user media. All this bunch of rubbish you are seeing here, they are part of the browser's API. And when I'm talking about the browser API, is that they are functionality which are built in within the browser. So all we just need to do is to call it within our JavaScript function. Like for example now, when you go into this Google Meet stuff, if you are entering here for the first time, it's going to prompt you to accept. Or let me just open this within the new tab using a private window. Like paste it here. It's going to ask me for something. It should ask me for something when I click join. So I want to show you what I mean. I have some network issue here. So right now, as you can see, it gives us an option to what allow or block this web page from using your microphone or camera. Now this functionality, this box or this functionality happens because of this code here, the navigator.media device.get user media here. So all this stuff, what this stuff does is that it simply tells the user, it gives the user an option to either accept a web page from using the browser built-in audio and video recording option. And it takes in a parameter, an argument called audio and the audio record constraints. The audio record constraint is simply an object that contains the audio cancellation of true. So we are saying before you record an audio, you want to set this media device to stop any echo effect from entering the audio we are trying to record itself. So that's what this navigator.media device.get user media does. And by the way, if you want some options here, I can simply show you guys here. So this is it here. So this echo cancellation, what it does is that it's a method used in telephony and telecommunication to improve voice quality by preventing echoes from being captured or created, or possibly removing it in post-processing. So we are simply telling the browser to remove any echoing effects while recording the video itself. So we see, and this is done by just simply this passing the option here to what true. And let's look at the next tips here. The second one is that this media device, the media device that gets user media, they are simply method which prompts the user for what permission to use a media input, which produce a media stream with tracks containing the what requested types of media. I don't know, this sound buggy, but it should be self-explanatory to you guys. By the way, I'm gonna leave this guys. I'm gonna leave this notes with you guys in the chat when I'm done. So what this does is just simply prompts the user to either accept or reject a particular media input for recording. And we are simply making use of the await keyword. So this function is an asynchronous function, right? And we make use of async to make use. We make use of async for this function to be what asynchronous. And when we talk about asynchronous, we're simply saying a particular function must get executed. It doesn't prevent any other function from running. So it simply makes use of the async and await. So all this stuff are just promise-based functions in JavaScript itself. So we are simply telling the browser to simply await for this stuff to get executed. And once it gets executed on each frame, it produces a stream. I'm sorry for the background noise. So on each frame, this particular device produces a stream for recording. And we simply pass this stream and the MIME type into this function here called handle record. And the handle record function is also what we define up here. We're simply passing the stream and the MIME type as an argument. And the reason why we pass this up here is that we are telling the function that we need these two things here. We need the stream and the MIME type. And by the way, the MIME type of what we're trying to record is simply what audio slash web or web simply. So this is like the default stuff for the browser, because any browser can either record MP3 and another stuff. But there will be a particular codec which some video players or some audio players won't be able to play. But this MIME type, I think every other device or every other audio device should be able to play it. when we finish recording. So we simply pass it into this particular function called handle record here, and the handle record here does the magic behind the scenes. So there are so many stuff we need to know for this. So when we click on audio, record audio, we simply do all this stuff. Then lastly, we add this, we call this function after once all this stuff gets executed. So we simply call the function, and what the function does first is what it starts the recording. And once you start the recording, the start record function what gets executed here. So this is it here. The start recording function simply what you remove the attribute of disabled here, like I explained earlier. So you simply remove the attribute of disabled so we can be able to stop the record and save our video file. But before that, we simply want to create an array to store the recorded chunks. I don't know, can you guys hear me? Please reduce the volume. Yeah, sorry guys for that. I think something was wrong with my network issue. My network here. So like I was saying, I said we need to store each of this recorded media data to an array, because on each frame this particular constructor, so this particular object here produces a recorded chunks itself. So this media recorder makes use of the browser new media recorder chunks, which takes in the stream of the audio input here, either video, audio, or screen. So on this, let me just show you guys what I have here. Sorry, I'm not sharing my screen. Oh, shit. I don't know. Can you guys see my screen? Can you guys see my screen? Hello? Oh my gosh, something is wrong. Hello, if you can see my screen, please respond. Oh shit. You said? Okay, I think something is okay. Where about now? Because I was having issue with the browser. Okay, yeah. So let's just continue. So I was talking about this method here called new media recorder. So all this stuff, you guys don't need to know anything about this. They're just like, they are APIs. And what I mean by API, they are simply application programming interface in which the browser provides for us for we to do some sort of tricks or some sort of functionality within the browser. So all this stuff, they are like the browser web APIs. So all you just need to do is just to call them and use them within your application. By the way, this new media recorder, let me show you what this stuff does. So as you can see here, sorry about that, not this, sorry, this. So the media recorder here, the media recorder constructor creates a new media recorder object that will record a specified media stream here. The object can optionally be configured to record using a specific media container, file type, and further can specify the exact codec and codec configuration to use by specifying the codec's parameter. So all this stuff does is that when we instantiate this media recorder constructor within the browser, it creates a recorder object, a media recorder object, which we can use to get a particular streams of data from an input source here. So this input source can either be the audio or the video and some other stuff. Yeah, so this stuff, so this media recorder object provides some public methods in which we can use to get data from here, and one of those methods is what on data available. So all this stuff, like, they are within the new media recorder. Or let me just show you guys when I type this out in the browser here. So if I type in new media recorders, so what do you guys see here? It says what failed constructor media recorder we got a optional parameter and some other stuff here. So the reason why this stuff returns on a type error is that this new media recorder simply takes in an argument, and the argument should be the stream of the input of the recorder input you're trying to record here. So one of the streams is what audio, and we can't actually do that here except just make use of this media recorder constructor here. Oh, sorry. Let me just see what this does here. New media recorder here. I think it's giving me some error because it needs a media stream here. So all this stuff won't be possible except we do it within our code here. So one of the methods in which this particular object provides for us is the method of what on data available. Like as the name implies, it says what when there's data or when there's availability of data, we simply do what? We simply want to check something. We want to write some conditions to get this data. Number one is simply this particular method here provides for us an event parameter here. This event here contains the data here. So we are simply checking if the size of the data is greater than 0, because by default, when we are not recording, the size of the data will simply be what equal to 0, which means no media stream is being provided for this particular object itself. And what I mean by object, anything any variable or function that is being declared as in with a new keyword is basically an object in any programming language itself. It could be it could be Python, not Python, JavaScript itself. So in JavaScript, any function declared with a new keyword is basically an object. So simply check if the data size is greater than 0, because this will tell if actually there's a data provided for us. So when there's a data provided for us, what we want to do, we want to add each of this data, because it doesn't just provide one data for us, it provides multiple data the longer we record. So each time we record this, each time we start the recording, the streams in which we get from the user media options, it provides us with different recorded streams, because each frames it provides us with each recorded streams here. So we don't just want to get the first frame, we want to get each of these frames, and that's why we are adding into an array here. We are simply pushing each of this data to this recorded chunks array. And array, they are built-in data structures in which can be used to hold multiple data of different data types here. When I mean by data types, it could be object, it could be string, it could be number, it could be an integer, it could be array, boolean, and some other stuff. So we are simply making use of the array to store each of these recorded data itself. And when we push all this data into it, each of this data comes. Sorry about that. We simply add this data. We simply push it into this array. So this array here. Then what we want to do, we want to check if should stop, and should stop is what true. That means we are simply checking if the user has clicked on the stop record button here. And what I mean by the stop record button, I mean this here. Let me just show you guys this stuff here. So this button here. So each time, once the user click on this button here, this stop record button, we simply change the value of a particular variable here, and the value of the variable is what of this should stop by default is what false here. So that means we've not stopped here. So once we click on the stop button, this value is being changed to what true. That means we've actually stopped recording the video here, or the audio, or any other media we are trying to record itself. So we are simply checking if should stop is true, and the stop record is what? False. What we want to do, we simply want to stop. We want to tell the media recorder to do what? To stop, because we don't want to keep on recording when we've actually clicked on the stop record itself. So we simply tell the media to do what? To stop recording here. And when we stop recording, each of this data won't be available again. So we are only checking if we are simply checking only if the size of the data is greater than 0, because if it's greater than 0, you know that what there's data available. But when we click on the stop button and we tell the media recorder to stop, the size of the data will be what? 0, because no data will be sent again from this will be sent to this media recorder object here. And we simply do all this other stuff. We simply set stop to what? True. And we simply check if actually the user click on the stop record button here. So we are saying we are checking if the media recorder dot on stop. So once the media recorder stops, when we click on that stop button, or when we instantiate this stop method here from this media recorder object, we are simply checking again if the media recorder dot stop, or simply on stop, or when this media recorder is stopped. We want to do two things. We want to convert each of these recorded data into a particular blob. And when I mean by blob, let's just check the meaning of what blob does. So as you can see here, it says what? A binary large object is a collection of binary data stored as a single entity. Blobs are typically images, audio, or multimedia objects, though sometimes binary executable code is stored as blob. So we are simply converting each of this data to what? To blob, and we are specifying the MIME type here. And the MIME type for this particular data is what? Audio/web. So this stuff is being passed in. That's the reason why we are actually adding the MIME type to this record, to this handle record function from this function here. So as you can see, the MIME type is what? Audio/what? WBM here. WEBM here. So we are simply converting it to Bob through the what? MIME type. And simply we are passing the recorded chunks here. We know that these recorded chunks, the array itself contains each of this recorded data itself. So we are simply passing it here. Then we are converting it to what? Blob, and we are simply resetting the recorded chunks to what? To empty. We are emptying we are clearing all the data within this recorded chunks array. Then we simply ask the user to provide us with a file name using the window.prompt method here. So the prompt method simply asks the user for input from the browser. So if I go into any other page, or if I go into this Google page and I execute a script within the browser console here. So let's see what this does. When I execute the window.prompt script, let's look at this. Window.prompt here. As you can see, this method here is being provided for us from the browser itself. So we can simply say tell me your name. Whatever. So as you can see, it says what? It gives me this simple dialog box for me to enter in an input. And when I click on OK, it shows what? It shows me the value of this particular dialog box here. So all we just need to know is that we are simply calling this method prompt from the window object to give us the file name to allow the user to enter the name of the file they want to save. So, but what if the user enters, clicks on cancel? What do? Do we save the file as an empty name? No, we simply want to save the file with something else, because right now if we click on cancel, it returns what? Null. Null simply means empty. So what if the file name is what? Null. So we simply check if there is a file name, because by default, if there's a file name, this if there is actually a file name provided from the user, we simply make use of the file name. But if there is no file name, we simply make use of the placeholder called recording, and that was the reason why we are making use of this pipe operator here. So this pipe operator is simply used to give condition based if a certain condition fail, we want to use another condition to execute whatever we want. So we are simply saying either the file name or this particular one. Yeah. So once we use, or if the user clicks on cancel, we make use of what recording.wbm and some other stuff. Then we simply stop recording. Then we assign the video element to what we simply make use of the video element. Then the source object we simply tell it to what none here. So that's that for that. And let's see. And by the way, we simply start. So when we click on this, when this handle record function is being executed, we do what? We initialize the media recorder, or we simply start the media recorder based on the interval here. So on 200 frames per seconds, we want to execute this particular media recorder here. So let's see what this does after this explanation here. So when I click on record audio, number one, what it does is that it's recording audio based on the condition specified by this here. Then it's when I click on stop recording here, what it simply prompts me to do what? Enter file name, which means what? The media recorder has simply stopped. So it says I can simply say type in color here and click OK. Then you can simply click on, as you can see, as we click on OK, we do what? We disable the stop record button because we don't want the user to click on it again after they click on it once. So we prevented the user from clicking on the stop button because right now I'm actually clicking on this, but the effect is showing this button is having no effect. Why? Because this button has an attribute of what's disabled. Then the download record button simply shows up. So when we click on download record here, we simply downloads the audio here which we recorded here. So when I click on this, just watch will happen. As you can see here, it's simply what downloads the audio recorded in WBM format here. So once I open this file, you should be able to hear what I've just said here. So if you guys listen closely, you should be able to hear it. Or if something is wrong with my audio here, I don't know. If you guys can hear it, just simply signify. But let me just open it up. I think my PC is taking time for this to open up. Let me just so right there is here. Let me just play it right here. I don't know if you guys can hear it, just simply signify so I can just like know what to do. So I'm gonna play it right here. Then it's when I click on stop. I don't know. Do you guys hear anything? I don't know if you guys hear any sound from this. But number one, what it does is that it's recording audio based on the condition specified by this. Then it's when I click on stop. Can you guys hear that? Oh, you're hearing just a little. I think it's from a PC or it's missing this Google Meeting stuff here. So basically, that's just what this video recorder stuff does. Sorry, the audio recorder stuff does. So I don't know. Do you guys have any other question? Before I move into these two parts, do you guys have any questions to ask? Any questions? Sorry, you said? You said? I can't hear you. Okay. The data structures, like I've said before, I just basically make use of only one data structures. And one data structure is just simply an array, like you saw here. So this is an array here. in which we use to store each of these recorded data streams from the recorded input here. So we simply store each of these streams, so each of this data provided for us by the browser through this media recorder object. Then we simply push it onto it here, because I don't know, they've taught you guys about stacks like FIFO and LIFO, first in, first out, and last in, last out, and some other stuff here. So we make use of this array to perform that. So we simply push push each of this data into this array here. Like I said, an array can be used to store data with different data types here. So for example, let's just declare array here. Let array is equal to a new array here. So if I say array.push 1, what do you get? And I log out array here, what do you guys see? You see what? 1 here. So we can simply push onto it any other stuff, then I continue to log it. We see 1 and Ben. So it adds each of this stuff on top of the stacks here, and that's the reason why I'm making use of it, to store each of these recorded streams. So I'm basically storing the streams into this array here. I don't know, is that clear? I was asking if this was clear enough. I was asking if that was clear enough for me to continue, or does any other person has a question? Yeah. So there are multiple data structures in JavaScript, and the only one which is being used mostly is array. The other ones are tree, hash map, graph, and some other stuff. But we don't need that, except you want to actually create your own algorithm itself to work on some certain stuff and other stuff. So the only data structure in which we use in this application is only array. And like I said array, they are one of the data structures in JavaScript which are used to store multiple data of different data types, and these data types can be either integer, boolean, string, object, and some other stuff itself. So I think that's that for that. Does anyone has a question again before I move on to the new the last section here? Any other person before I move on to this? I'm simply waiting for answer. I'm simply, or should I ask a question for you guys to think about it? Because I really want you guys to get this clear, before you guys present it to your lecturer soon. Apart from you, Chinomso or Mrs. Chinomso, apart from you, any other person? I'm saying he is. Oh, let me just look at the people here. So I'm simply saying Fatoki, James, Toluwani, Ibukun, Oluwa, Emmanuel, and all these guys. I don't know. Do you guys get it clear? Olisa, K, and Co. I don't know. Do you guys get it clear enough? You said? I didn't hear you. Okay, let me not bother you guys here. So I think everybody get all this. So you can go through the video once I stop the recording once. So let's move on to the next portion, the next part, which is what? Video here. Record video here. So all this stuff is just the same thing, except we are making use of this stuff. We are simply making use of this handle record function multiple times within each of these functions here, each of these record video and record audio. All the things, what is just different is just the means of recording. So right now we want to record video. So when we click on the record video, we want to ask the user for some stuff. By the way, let me just grant it so you guys will be able to see what I'm talking about. So by the way, so when you click on record video, we simply set the constraints. So this new media, this navigator.get the media device .get user media takes in a constraint, and when I mean by constraint, they are like the property of the recorded inputs. For example, one of the property for this video is that we don't want echoing to appear in the video, because while I'm speaking, there will be some echoing, some echo effect within the video. But so we want to prevent that using the echo cancellation. We are simply setting it to true, and this property, this key only applies to what the audio here, the audio constraints. While the video constraint, we are simply setting the width and height of the video. So the minimum width for the video is what 640, and the maximum width is what 124. The maximum height is what 768, and the minimum height is what 78. So this is just like the property for the video itself. Sorry. Now we make use of the normal navigator.media device.get user media and passing the constraints, and this media device simply returns the stream. Then the stream, we don't just want to record the video without showing the user the output of the video. So that's the reason why we simply grab the video element, then attach the stream to the source object, because if we simply make use of the video element of source, it's going to throw an error because this stream is actually an object. And let me show you what I mean. When I log out stream here, we simply see we simply get the property. Sorry, the property of this stream itself. So let me just show you guys what I mean. So when I click on record video here, this is it here. So it gives us the media stream here, taken with the ID and unactive and some other methods here, and the active of true. So we don't want to append this to a source, because normally video elements have different attributes. One of the attributes are either source and source object. The source object converts the object into a valid source type, while the source just taking a valid source itself. So that's the reason why we are making use of the source object here, and followed by the stream here. So we simply attach the source object to the stream, and then this source object convert the stream to whatever source element for the video to show up in the browser here. Oh, bullshit. This is bad. So like I was saying before some network issue occurred. So right now this is actually the stream stuff coming from the video itself. So when we click on stop record, that same functionality which was declared within this stop record, the stop record function also get executed. So when I click on this stop record button, what this stop record button does is that it simply asks me for that same thing again. It asks me for the name of the file and some other stuff. It asks me for the name of the file and simply get a link of append the ref attribute to it. So right now, let me show you what I mean. Let me just inspect here. So right now we see this anchor tag here. The anchor tag makes use of this element here. So we are simply wrapping the download record here to this anchor tag. Right now we see that we have no ref attribute here, as you guys can see. So once we click on stop record now, we want to append an href attribute. The href attribute contains the link in which we'll be able to download the video here. So instead of us doing some other logic, we simply make use of the anchor tag, because the anchor tag enables us to create a link within the browser itself. So when I click on the stop record now, we simply get the name of the file which we want. So let's say Ben here. Okay, then what do we see now? We get the ref attribute followed by the blocked link here. We simply make use of the URL.createObject method here. The URL method.createObject URL, taking the blob here, which is this, then convert it into a valid link for we to use to download the video here. So when I click on download record here, it simply downloads the video itself. So let's move into our file explorer to see the video here. So right now, this is it here. So as you can see, this is actually what is going on within those logic behind the scenes here. So that's that for that. Let me refresh this. So let's move on. I don't know, do you guys have questions for this particular section, for the video section? Any question for the video section? Oh, not again. I'm sorry about that. My network here has some issue with it. Sorry about that, guys. Really sorry. And let's just continue. So I was asking if you guys saw when I downloaded the video also, just to be sure, so I can know where to start from again. So I was asking if you guys saw when I downloaded video from this stuff here, so I can know where to start from. Or any question concerning the video record function here. Hello guys, I'm asking if actually you guys have any question. Okay, no props. Let me just go on. Let me just move on. And you guys can watch it on your own. So the last part will just simply be the screen recorder. Like I said, we simply create a function, then we use it multiple times. So instead of us writing the same logic on our own, we simply create a function here. We create the main function. The main function is actually this handle record function here. So if you guys really understand this, all you just need to just to get to know all this other function here. So this is actually what's like the part in which is handling the recording and some other stuff itself. So we're making use, first of all, we're making use of the media recorder here to get the stream of the input which was chosen by the input stream can either be audio, video, and screen here. So we are moving on onto the screens part here. So the screen type, we simply check created the MIME type. The MIME type will simply be video/WBN, same as video here. Then we simply added the constraint. Like I said the media device has need a particular argument called constraint. That is the property of the input which we're trying to record here, of the media input here. And one of the properties of the video here, we added the video property, and we are setting the cursor toward motion, which means we want to see the cursor when we are screen recording here, because we don't want to record our screen without seeing the cursor or without seeing where the user is clicking. So then we simply check if actually the user if the user browser supports screen recording, because not every browser accepts screen recording here. So we simply check for the screen recording device if it's present on the user browser here. If it doesn't, if this particular function here return false, which means the navigator.media device that get display media isn't supported by the user browser, then we simply throw an alert here saying screen record not supported here. So then we created a variable called stream, we're setting it to null as a value, then we are simply creating another variable to display stream, which is what we actually need to display to the user to see when we click on record screen here. So we are simply setting into navigator.media device that gets display media. Remember, the other one was get user media here, right here. Get user media, but for screen recorder, we are simply saying what get display media here. We are adding the constraint value here, the audio to echo cancellation true, and some other stuff here. Then we check if the window dot confirm. We simply ask the user to what? If we simply ask the user to if you want to allow the user to record audio along with the video which is being recorded by the screen, because there are some times which you want to record your screen without adding audio effect here. So we simply tell the user to tell the user to choose if he or she want to accept adding adding audio to the recorded video itself. So that's why we are simply making use of the window.conformant. The conformant simply asks for user input. So let me show you guys what this stuff does. Say window.confirm this and some other stuff. It simply says what? It simply display the message and say okay or cancel. But when we click on cancel, it returns false. When we click on okay, it returns what? True. If I click on cancel now, it says what? False. If I do it again and I click on okay, it says what? True here. So that's the reason why. So if the user clicks on true or okay, we simply know that what the user want to allow audio to be added to the screen recorder here. But if it clicks on cancel, we simply know that the user don't want audio to be added here. Then we simply do some other logic here. So one of the logic in which we did is that we simply get the audio context here, and the audio context I'm going to leave some link for you guys to go through on your own. Let me just get it now. Audio context from here, not this. I think it should be this. Where is this? Get audio. No, not this. I think it should be this guy here. Yeah, so this is it here. So right now they said the create media stream source method of audio context interface is used to create a new media stream audio source code object, giving a media stream, say from a media device to get to a media instance, the audio from which that can be played and manipulated. So what all this stuff does is that this audio context object simply accepts the media device stream. So in which we want to use, for example, the media device stream in which we want to use is simply the audio. So when we click on audio here, when we click on accept audio, we simply added the stream to this audio context to create an audio which will then be added to the media stream here. And these are all the logic in which we added here. But by the way, all this stuff, like, they're not something I did offhand or something like that. Simply what the browser provides, in which our application needs to use. So the audio context simply takes in, where are you? The audio context object takes in the media device stream input here. So right now the stream input is actually what? Video stream here, which is being used to record the screen here. Then we simply created the destination and some other stuff. Then we get the tracks of each of these frames of the video here, and the tracks contains the display stream that gets video media, that gets video tracks. They get video tracks simply returns each of these videos frame tracks itself. So we simply spread it into an array. By the way, this dot simply means spread operator. So when you see this 3 dot signs here, it simply means spread operator. And what I mean by spread operator, they're simply used to copy a particular piece of variable to an array. So let's say let's say name 1 to be what, Ben here, and let name 2 to be Ayo here. Sorry, Ayo here. Then what if I want to put in this name 1 and name 2 into an array without using the push method here? So I can simply say let array is equals to what, dot 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 name 1 and what, dot 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 name 2. So when I console.log array, we get this data here. So as you can see here, we simply add it into the what, array itself here. So they're like simply they're used to actually add elements to, or append element to an array, or to make copy of an element into an array or any other data types itself. So this is actually used in JavaScript itself. So we are simply making a copy into this array. We are adding each of these tracks to the array, both the display media tracks and the audio media tracks itself. Then we simply create a media stream based on these tracks here. That's why we are making use of the new media stream tracks here. I'm going to leave some links for you guys to go through it, so you can get a full description of what this stuff does itself. Then we simply call the handle record function to get the media streams and some other stuff, so we can be able to download the recorded audio here. So let's see how this stuff does. So let's click on record screen. Right now it's actually prompt us, and this stuff is coming from the navigator.media device get display media device, not get user media device itself. So the get display media device is actually enabling us to choose what device we want to use to record our screen here. It could be our entire screen, it could be the window, it could be the Microsoft Edge tab here. So we want to choose our entire screen here. I want to choose the Windows screen here, all this stuff here, or the Microsoft Edge tab here. So let's choose our entire screen here. Then we click on what, share. Let me say record audio with screen. So we are being prompted to choose if you want to actually record audio with this particular screen here. So I'm going to click on OK here. So right now it simply displays what we are seeing on the Google Meet stuff here. So it's actually displaying it up here. So all this stuff, they are like the built-in functionality from the browser itself. There's no magic happening here. All you just need to do to call each of these functions and method from the browser to add certain functionality to your app here. So we are simply getting the media stream here, and then when we click on stop record, we are being asked to enter the file name here. So we are simply putting in the file name here, and we click on OK. Then it creates a hyperlink or an href link, which is being used for the elements. So when I click on download record here, it shows me the downloaded video stuff here. And when I click on the play here, when I click on play stuff here, it simply shows me all the screen recorded stuff which I've been doing here. As you can see here, it actually shows this cursor here. So right now we are seeing the cursor, which means, and this effect is coming from this code which we added here from the constraint here. Remember that we set the constraint to what, cursor motion. So if we want to get the motion of each of this cursor here, because we want the cursor to appear when we are simply screen recording. So let's click on stop sharing here and some other stuff. So that's that for the screen recorder and some other stuff. By the way, I want to leave all this link for you guys to go through. Let me just copy this out and add it to this link here. To this meeting. So if you guys have any other question for me, you guys to go through, for me guys to answer, you can ask it now, so I can go through it.
That's why one of that is I don't go in class, so you need to stop the job.
So that's that for the screen recorder stuff. Let's simply refresh the page. I don't know, does anyone has any question? Any question before I end the meeting? Any question before I end the meeting, please? Any question? You said? I didn't hear you well. I don't know, your audio isn't coming out well. I don't know whether it's my network or yours. I can't I can't really hear what you just said. Or could you put it down in the chat so I can go through it? Okay, while that is going, does any other one has any question before I close the meeting? Or every other stuff which I've explained, is it okay with you guys?
They sleep by now. You don't have time for 7 o'clock. Average family around 7 o'clock, people is rushing to make sure their family is complete by 7 o'clock. This way, will stay for office after 7, 8. Now be own factory.
Okay, it seems no one has question. Okay, that will be the end of this meeting. I'm gonna drop the link for you. I'm gonna drop the link for you guys to go through it when you're done. So I think that's all for this. I don't know if you guys have any question. You can leave it down for Chinazon for me to go through it, and I'll just send you the answer right away. So that's that for that. My name is Benaya. Once again, if you guys have any other stuff to go through it, you can simply ping me. And thank you so much for this.